The topic for today's webinar is connected with the backups in Atlassian Cloud and the recovery plan. I believe all the customers should have, or at least have in mind. So going forward, we are representing Divinity. Divinity is Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner and Platinum Marketplace Partner, which means that we are providing the full range of customer needs, starting from the license management, producing marketplace apps, and the professional services around the Atlassian. We are 18 years in the ecosystem already, and there are more than 300 people on board who are working with the cloud, Atlassian Cloud, on a daily basis. And what is really important from my perspective, we are conducting migrations mostly because of the trend from Atlassian, which means that we saw a lot and we want to share the few things with you today. As a host, my name is Katarzyna Dorożurkowska. I'm head of Atlassian Services in Divinity, more than 15 years in the ecosystem already. And with me, there are two of my colleagues, Szymon.
Hi, hello. My name is Szymon Szerewicz. I'm Atlassian DevOps team leader. My team is mostly responsible for cloud migration, but also everything what happened in Atlassian Stack background. And today with me is also Atlassian expert Mateusz Wójcik.
Hi, hello. My name is Mateusz Wójcik, as Szymon said. I work as a senior DevOps engineer here in Divinity. I've been working with Atlassian Stack for almost a decade right now. And as Szymon said, we were mostly managing everything that relates to the background of Atlassian Stack and also migrations to cloud.
Okay, so just a few information at the beginning. For those who are staying until the end of the webinar, we have a bonus. And I will talk a little bit more about that at the end. And second, really important information, the webinar is recorded. And after the webinar, you will get the access to the Knowledge Hub, where you will be able to find all the documents we will be speaking about, and everything, both with the recording from today's webinar and every other we've did in the past. Szymon, let's move forward to the agenda, please. This is the screenshot from the Knowledge Hub, and today's agenda is what can go wrong, and when it is possible that something will go wrong with the backups will be really needed. What Atlassian offers in terms of the backups, how the third-party tools can help, and how different they are from the native Atlassian backups, how to stay compliant. This is a really important information part for most of our customers. Lessons learned, we've learned from the incidents from our customers, and what to plan, how to plan, and what the recovery plan should include. So before we will move to the content of the presentation, this is a question to you. Have you ever deleted a Jira issue or workflow configuration by mistake? You can just put yes or no in the chat, and this will say something for us. Okay, it looks like sometimes it happens, not to everyone, but if someone is saying yes, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just sometimes happens. It's like with accidents.
Okay, so let's go to common data loss scenarios, because when we talk about the data loss scenarios, we think usually about massive outages, catastrophic hacks, or some big disaster, but reality usually is much more simple, because most of data incidents don't come from security breaches and hardware failures, for example, but they come from everyday work. So for example, you can imagine that someone delayed the project by mistake, maybe during the cleanup or deleting test projects, but someone clicked to the wrong one. Maybe someone ran bulk changes, select thousands of issues, and there is no the option. Someone does space import, which overwrite other spaces. A bit bucket integration breaks repo structure, or maybe someone update a workflow and delete fields mapping, and we lose some key data from the view of the Jira issue. So this is not what-if scenarios, but this is a real situation that could happen in your teams.
Yes, and now we've got one more question for you. Have any one of you ever thought about how long can your team and your company work without Jira or maybe other Atlassian tools? because what we want to share with you is about the recovery time objective, or it will be called later on RTO, and is a time what's acceptable for being downtime of your company for your company critical infrastructure. So do you thought about what will happen after 1 hour of when Jira is down? Maybe your teams will go back to communicating on your Slack or Teams or whatever other chat you have over there. Maybe engineers will know what the work was to be done, but SLAs may be at risk because your support teams, the contacted clients, maybe cannot respond to clients. After 1 day, some delivery timelines may slip. Managers and PMs can track progress of the issues because there is no access to issues. Some sprints may derail, and your customers once again will wait a lot longer because there is no communication line. After a few more days, first of all, trust for your company is going to decline. So that's the biggest the issue. Release calendars can break because the releases cannot be tracked and done on time. And I think the worst part for everyone who is responsible for any part of company software, you are on radar of the compliance and audit teams. And for me personally, it's the worst thing because I don't know if anyone over here likes being audited.
Okay, so let's go to Atlassian Cloud built-in backup, what it does, what and doesn't do. So first of all, Atlassian provide built-in backup option, and for what it's designed, it's quite work well, but there is some limitation. Of course, Atlassian provide platform snapshots because Atlassian Cloud ecosystem is hosted on the AWS, and Atlassian is responsible for that. From our side, we can do site exports, but there is some limitation. We talk about it later. We can do the whole site export, but there is some limitation about export single Jira issue or single project. We don't have granular restore or custom retention. We don't have restore preview, and we don't have any audit and compliance logs. So this is quite problematic in some ways. But for now, Atlassian is working for new backup restore experience. They have this on their roadmap. There is some beta versions for cloud enterprise customers right now, but for now we don't know will be a real granular restore, but we know that we can do backup in a more easiest way than we have for now. And to put this in practical terms, imagine you Jira admin, for example, deletes Jira project and it's not a trash. You don't have project level recovery. And in this case, the only option is rebuild this project from scratch or rebuild it manually. Maybe if you have this site backup generated, you can just create a sandbox if you are on enterprise or premium plan license, or maybe you can try to create trial license in new site. And in that case, you can just import single project with Jira configuration manager tool built in on Atlassian Cloud, but still there is some limitation. Like, for example, you cannot migrate data for applications. The next situation is wrong automation rule. You can imagine that someone will changes for 2000 issues and you cannot roll back this. You need to roll back this by hand, and it could take a lot of time to reverse that. The third thing is workflow config is overwritten. It could break work for a lot of teams. There is no version history, and recovery could take a lot of time to fix it.
So thanks for what Szymon said. As you heard, native tools can help you with overwriting the whole instance, but is it what you guys actually need? Because from our perspective, what you need is one word: granularity. You need to be able to restore the only one project that was deleted, or maybe only one issue, or maybe only some attachments. Let's say the scenario: your companies have thousands of tickets in many projects over in your cloud, and then by some error in bulk edition, only around 100 tickets, maybe 200 are getting changed. And you want to restore only those tickets, so you don't need the whole site of written, you just need a little bit part of this to be able to recover it. Same goes for everything that happens with recovery. So once again, granularity. This is something that we want to show you, but it will show you a few tools that aren't native for Atlassian, but it will be coming in a second.
Okay, and now we will talk about this 38-hour limitation and why it can be risky. If you want to do export backup without avatars and logos, you can do that anytime. But if you want to include that, you have limitation of 48 hours. So if your RPO is less than 48 hours, it could be problematic and could be impact at a lot of teams, because it could be too late for them, and they need, for example, this RPO set as 8 hours, so you don't have this all data ready to restore. So we've got this limitation, but if in special cases, if you want it, you can contact Atlassian, and in some cases they can just set up this limitation for example, for that 8 hours for some time, if you provide an extra changes on your instances, for example. And shared responsibility model, you need to think as Atlassian as a babysitter and you are a parent. Atlassian is responsible for that whole platform update and availability, for disaster recoveries, global data durability on that AWS, and security on whole platform. But you need to think about protecting your sites from your users, recovering data your teams really on daily, meeting your own RPO goals, and you need to be compliant. So you need to know that not everything will be on Atlassian, because if someone delayed single Jira issue on your instance, it could be very problematic, and in some cases then they cannot help you with that. So you need to be aware about it.
Yes, and based on the Atlassian Cloud incident from 2022, what it would look like or may look like for you if you are not prepared and you don't have any backups. Like back in April 2022, some engineer from Atlassian, by accident, because they haven't tested the script, ran a script across Atlassian sites, which accidentally deleted almost 400 instances of Jira and all of Jira in Cloud. And by the timeline, before Atlassian confirmed what happened and before they restored any of the instances, it traversed almost 10 days. Well, of course, it also depended on which plan you were using, because Atlassian started recovery from enterprise-grade users and then went to premium and then to standard and free users. So it also decided when have your instances been redone. But if you were prepared, clients were prepared, they had their own backups, so they restored them on other sites, or maybe even on their own sites, and they could have been working again. But for the not prepared clients, sadly, they've been waiting, some even for 2 weeks, before the Atlassian came back online for them.
This is very important what Mateusz will say, because Atlassian always start helping customers with higher plan, so that they started from enterprise, then premium. So if you are on standard, probably you will be on the last on the queues with that. So you need to be aware of that.
Okay,
Yes.
before we will move to the next part of the presentation, I would encourage you to ask us questions. Please put them on the chat and we will answer all of them, or at least try to answer all of them at the end of the webinar. We see that someone already put something, but it's sometimes hard to answer when we are going through the content of the presentation. So at the end, we'll answer them. Okay, guys, let's move forward.
Okay, so everything we said before, this is the reason why we need operational backup tools. They let you restore specific items, stay compliant, and test resources before you are actually needed. So in the next session, we talk something about these tools, and Mateusz will start it.
Yeah, so we'll tell you why the third-party backup tools are needed. We'll also present you a comparison of free tools. You may already try to guess on chat which tools may be, because we've got many of them on the market. But then we come in the second with answers from our side. But why are you needing this tool? Because as you heard before from Szymon, there are many limitations on native tools in Atlassian, and let's face it, you want to be prepared for any kind of outage. Doesn't matter if it be from your side or from the Atlassian side or maybe from AWS side. So you want to be able to, once I said before, to have granularity with what do you want to restore. You want to have tested, you want to test your backups, you want to test the restore speed, and or maybe even automate the process of preparing backups and then restoring them. And what I think is the most important thing, you want be to be the owner of any backups that may be done. And one more thing that's also very important, you also want to stay compliant, as we'll show in a second. The, Here we've got the four most important standards, at least from our perspective, that you should be you should be compliant to when preparing backups. So GDPR, because most of us work in Europe, or at least operates in Europe. HIPAA, of course, our internal policies, and ISO or SOC 2, so we can prove data integrity and retention recovery. Why? Because, as I said before, nobody likes to be auditioned. You want to be compliant. So if an auditor anytime come to your door knocking, or okay, show me your documentation on backups, you can just, okay, you are using this, and this tool, and we are compliant with everything. It was a very nice audit. Now we can go back to our other work. And okay, Shimon.
Let's talk about capabilities you should expect from backup tools. So what that means in practice, you should expect the ability to restore a single issue, a single core configuration, or even individual workflow. You should also look for frequent backups, ideally in hourly, not only for that 48 hours, even near to real time. Retention here is only a key point, and recovery should be fast and no painless. Some advanced tools will also let you know preview restore. Some could be very useful for audit logs. You can even do some difference check before you do that. And I think the last and most important point for me is tested, automated, and documented restore paths, because you need to be aware, you need to know how to do that process, how it will look like. And even if you wake up during 2 a.m., you will know how to go through that process.
As I told you before, we'll be showing you some tools. We are starting with YHICU. I don't know if any of you have been working with those tools. It's basically enterprise-grade backup tool, which allows you to backup not only Atlassian Cloud, but also other cloud instances. So it's one tool for everything. To deliver it to your Atlassian instance, you don't need your Atlassian org admin, because it's a fully external tool, which you only have to, the few simple clicks in the UI integrate. Every tool that we show you today is fully aligned with the policies that I've talked before. So we want to tell you a few things, and also every of these tools allows you to have granular recovery of project, issue, configs, attachment, depends on what have you specified during the recovery. Also, every tool provides with the full audit log, because if you want to stay compliant, you need audit log to know who and when and why prepared backup or restored it. You can also, with this tool, schedule policy-driven backups. So if you want to take backup every 2 hours, it's up to you. You want to store also, if you want to store it on AWS S3 bucket, maybe on Azure Cloud, maybe on your own on-premise server. It's all up to you. Store it whenever and however you want.
And extra, it integrates with existing enterprise backup tools like Zerto, Vim, or Rubrik. So if you use one of them, it will be very helpful to use this from that one place.
Yes, the next tool that we'll tell you about is the Git Protect. Some of you may know it. It's a tool very oriented around DevOps tools. So in case of Atlassian Cloud, we're talking mostly about Bitbucket. It's yes, if you want to focus on your DevOps team's needs, go with Git Protect, because they cover a range of repository level and multi-repository level restores. So it's very nice to use in that case. You've got all CI/CD pipelines covered over there. Once again, you can store your backups whenever you want, and also it covers and supports the GitHub, GitLab, a Bitbucket server also, so not only the cloud version. So yes, if you are working as a DevOps or you need your DevOps to be backed, go for Git Protect, I would say. And the last tool, Rewis, is a tool that you need your Atlassian admin to integrate it, because it's a native tool from Atlassian Marketplace. You just need to install it. Few simple clicks, very intuitive UI, and here you are ready for being backed. The most important difference when Rewis have with other two tools, you store data on Atlassian data center. So if you've got geo pointed to probably Switzerland or maybe Frankfurt, any other data center in Atlassian, then all your data is stored with backups over there also. Yeah, it's a native tool from Atlassian Marketplace, so it's very simple to install and integrates automatically. And also it allows you to have granular restoration of everything.
And they have one of the best audit log, change log, so it could be very helpful with checking what was different before the backup was due.
Yes, that's a very good point. And we also prepared for some comparison of those three tools. So, like, what do you need and what those tools offer. So as you can see, there's a lot of data over here. We know it's very hard to comprehend all those data during the webinar. So we'll let you have the presentation after the webinar, so you can comprehend it over the coffee and just think about what do you need and what tools can give you. Same goes with the backup and rotation capabilities, because let's face it, you also need to think about retention, because I think that you don't need backups that were created back in 2020, 5 years later. I think that you should agree with me that. And with the third party solutions, you can regulate the retention policy of everything. Also, you can think about restoring and the recovery capabilities. So if you want to restore only a single issue, maybe single config, workflow config, maybe only one Bitbucket branch and or repository, it's all up to you. But as I said, we'll send it all of these tables, so you can read it by yourself. You can see what tools is best for you, and also you can always ask us. We'll try to help you as much as you want. But what I think that you should tell you, we prepared some simple decision tree about which tool should you be using. Yes, and as you can see, you need to ask yourself a few simple questions. Do you need to focus on backupping your Bitbucket repos and CI/CD metadata? If yes, go with Git Protect. But if no, and you want to fully backup every of your Atlassian tool on the external platform, go with YHCO. And if you need granular recovery with the native Atlassian tool, then you are going with Rewis.
And a lot of our customer wants to keep that backup on their side. It depends if it is AWS, Azure, on their own servers. So for some clients, it's very important to have it. So in that way, you need to choose Git Protect or HiQ.
Yes, thank you, Shimon, for telling that. And also, we've got some toolkit by use case. So, for example, if you want to roll back a Bitbucket repository state to one point in time, you should use native backup from Git Protect, because it's a best fit tool for using it. So you can see we've got a lot of data prepared for you guys, and it will be easier to comprehend it, not during the webinar, but I think by yourself.
Okay, before we'll move to the next part of the presentation, let me tell you a little bit more about the customer cases we've experienced in the past. So the first one is when exactly the native JML backup was the one which helped customers at the end of the day. So it was a mid-sized software company, 150 Jira users, and on the Friday afternoon, a new admin, just a few weeks in this role and in the company, was trying to clean up the old test projects. Somehow in the middle of that cleanup, he deleted a critical project that was contained several years of historical data, and it was a bug reported by a customer, and the project was still in the guarantee phase. So it was really important to have this history for them, because the project was old and it wasn't active. He thought he can just delete it and it won't be a problem. And he did this on the Friday afternoon. So by Monday morning, it turns out that they really need it, because this is a history for a few years of cooperation with one of the customer. But the project was already gone. So there was no trash entry, no way to click just restored and have this data back. So they were a little bit lucky because just the night before this accident, the backup was done and it was completed with attachments. So when we had the full site export, it allows us to at least trying to figure out how to restore it. So they've created the temporary Jira Cloud instance, imported this XML file there, and pull all the data from the missing project. Of course, it wasn't perfect because it wasn't done just before this deletion, but a few hours ago. So they've lost some comments and some data, but at least they had something. So they were lucky because they were lying on this 48 hours window, and they were able to get back to those data. The second case is not so optimistic, unfortunately. It's similar. There was a new admin in the company, and by accident he wanted to create a new script, of course, and he deleted content along for the user groups. By a lot, in this area, we mean 200 users groups and 1,000 of custom fields, links to Confluence, archived project. All happened just before the bank holiday, so scale of the disaster was found after 4 days. And sadly, this company didn't have any external backup tool, and they were working only on the native backup. When they tried to restore it, they found out that it was never tested before. And this particularly, the last one, at least this one was broke. So unfortunately, they lost a week of their work, and there was nothing they can do with that. So for a moment, there was a panic disorder, but at the end, the only good thing after that is that they really found out that they need to have the external backup system. It's not something that is needed for everyone, but the more you rely on the Jira and other Atlassian stack products, the more you need it when you're on cloud. Okay, let's move forward, guys, to the recovery plan.
Thank you, Kat, for that.
Okay, so at the beginning we need to have definition. We usually define 6 of them. First of all is critical use cases. For example, how to do it is a list of business critical actions that depend on the application you are using. For example, this is just release approvals, sprint planning, etc. Acceptable downtime for you, because you need to estimate how long each process can be offline without any impact of your organization. You need to know it's that for you 1 hour or more, or maybe less. And max data loss, also we need to determine how much lost work is tolerable, because usually we want to restore everything, but in some cases this is not possible, so we need to worry about it. And we need to know that, for example, 4 hours losing of issue is acceptable for us. Frequency of that backup, how often it will be running. Restore scope and process, we need to define what must be restorable for us. It's a single issue or a whole project, or only some part of the config. And last point is owner and the fallback. This is one of the most important points, because we need to know how and to who assigned this recovery owner and who will be do that restore during something wrong happened on our instance.
Yes, and we take the freedom to prepare some example recovery strategy planning, so RTO versus RPO, as we told before. I know that all of you think that we don't need any RTO because there should be the zero downtime, but sadly there will be a day when the downtime will happen, so you should think about what's your max downtime, how many hours of data can you lose to be able to operate without losing any assets. So you have to build your own strategies. So if you want hourly backup, or maybe once a day, once per week, and also who owns it, because ownership is very important in this process. If you got a clear ownership of who is owning which application, who should be able to do backups and also restore them, and if those persons know what to do, then the whole process should run smoothly and without unnecessary panic or stress. So as you can see, we prepared some example things like Jira is on high priority, RTO is 2 hours, and RPO is 4 hours. Of course, all of those strategies will need to be adjusted. It all depends on your own personal growth, because if right now preparing backup takes 2 hours, restoring takes an hour, it doesn't mean that in a year from now it will take also the same amount of time, because if you are creating thousands of tickets and gigabytes of attachments monthly, then the next few months you should reconsider adjusting strategies, because maybe preparing and restoring everything will just take considerable longer time.
Okay, what your recovery plan should cover. This is an example which you can use. And here, first, we've got backup retention strategy. We need to have this frequency with aligns to us, what hour or daily would be enough for us. Retention policies that meet audits and legal in our company. Storage where it will be placed, it will be enough, it will be in Atlassian servers, or maybe we need to on our own AWS on our own servers. The next thing is restore reliance and ownership. We need to have this well documented, tested, and up to date. We need to have team members who owns everything and run during the problems. Self-service or fast restore path available if it's needed. The third thing is RTO and RPO target defined. We need to set up here what is max acceptable recovery time for us, what is RPO for us acceptable, and backup recovery aligned with service level expectation in our organization. The last thing here is audit and reporting preparedness. You can prove what was restored by whom and when, so we need to have that logs very well prepared, and backup and recovery testing in schedule and documented. So once again, we said before, we need to know if this backup is really working, and we need to know how to do that even in night. If someone wake up us and tell us that our data is broken, so we need to restore something.
But maybe also, if you're prepared with backups, we've got all your strategies, then you also have to eliminate and try to eliminate mistakes, because they may happen during the whole process. So as we found one quote, having a backup is easy, but being ready to recover, that's the hard part. Why? Because maybe you've got the whole strategy, you have the whole documentation, but nobody really ever tried to restore anything. So you only have the theory, but without any practice. So that's why you need there's a good the best practice to use some test environment, just to at least once by a few months to restore your data over there, just to see how the process works. Maybe adjust some documentation, maybe adjust your APO and RTO during that time. It's also nice to have. Maybe you don't have the defined ownership of the applications and data. Maybe the process can take too long, like you are waiting for your CEO approval to bring back backups online, which can and may take time, because as we know, the whole bureaucracy can take time even in the small organization. You also, if you are using only the native tools, you may be trusting trash. So if you probably you have 5 Jira admins, one of you moved the project to trash on Friday, thinking nobody will work during the weekend. I will recover it on Monday, because during the weekend nobody will use it. And on Monday, it seems that somebody throw the trash out, and you are left without a project, without the data that you will need for your work. So don't trust the trash. If something is moved over there, consider it as gone, because it's supposed to work like that. Maybe one of the few things you are thinking, okay, everyone works on Jira. Jira is the most critical software company. So we've got prepared plans and backups for them, but we are ignoring Bitbucket and Confluence, which, let's face it, synchronized tools for Atlassian ecosystem. So please don't ignore those tools, because they are very important to have a synergetic work for you. Also, you may haven't prepared a granular restore path. So for your recovery path, it's only to override the whole instance, and you should know how to do the granular recovery. So you may work with zero downtime during the recovery time if it only happens for maybe 1 or 2 projects. And also your RTO, RPO may not be defined, as I said before, or maybe are not just realistic or have been adjusted for years right now. So it may also be down for you. And are you compliance ready? As I told before, I don't like being audited by any means, but I know that me included, everyone needs to be compliance ready by all means. So what are maybe the typical gaps, like the Atlassian retention is only 30 days, for example, for the native backups, and you are using the third-party tool that allows your retention to be set between 90 days and even a few years if you want to store backups by yourself on any self-hosted platform. The same goes with the logs. So the retention policy of the logs may be too short for you to be fully compliant by your internal standards. And the same thing goes with the testing backups, or maybe with just being the compliance, just having compliance friendly export formats. Because let's face it, not every auditor know how to use the JSON file. Maybe they want to test your .sql file, or maybe XML file. So that's why you have to be sure that you are compliance ready before any audit happens. And yeah,
Here we've got information about database enterprise grade backup and recovery. You can go back to that after the webinar in the website we sent you after that. So we can go further. And here we've got how to build recovery plan and prepare before we need it. Here you also got an example how to do that in 5 steps. And you go back to that also after the webinar in knowledge base.
Okay, so this is all in terms of the content for today. If you still have some questions and they won't be answered during the Q&A session, there is always a chance to ask them. This is just an idea of the question you can have. So what we are offer as a bonus, and it's on the next slide, Szymon, it's a consultation with guys like Szymon and Mateusz who are working with the customer needs on a daily basis. So you can reach out to us. You can have this free of charge bonus for you. And what I can tell you, it's not a sales pitch. It's just expertise we want to share with you to make sure you are getting the most from your Atlassian Cloud and you are fully compliant and safe in terms of the backups. So on the next slide, Szymon, or the next one is still, this is a screenshot from the Knowledge Hub, and as Szymon said just a minute ago, you will get a link to that after the webinar. There will be a recording, all the materials, so you can always get back to that after when you have a question. So let's move forward to the Q&A session, because I believe there are plenty of them, and we have 15 minutes, so let's use this time as good as possible. I will start the reading questions, and the guys, please try to ask them, or I will ask if it will be possible. So the first one is the 48 hours limitation for all plans.
Yes, it's a limitation for every plan in Atlassian Cloud.
If you're on the enterprise and you already have this new backup feature in beta version, there is option to do that even for 1 hour. But if you are using still that native functionality and you don't have this new feature on, this is from not Jira or from Confluence as it is, this is from admin organization panel level. This feature is available.
Yeah, but as Szymek said, it's only in beta testing right now, so that's why we, at least I stand on the opinion that it's for every plan. But as Szymek said, it's in beta version for some enterprise grade users.
Okay, so the next question, is plugin data also backed up using these third-party backup solutions, for example, for test rate data?
It depends of the marketplace plugin. Some of them could already do that, but a lot of them still are not backupping this plugin data. But for example, all of three we talk about HiQ, Revise, and Grid Protect could backup assets. But only, for example, HiQ can, from my knowledge right now, maybe someone is updated, but HiQ for now is only plugin could backup tempo timesheets, for example. But you need to check all of them to be sure what plugin you are using and what that marketplace vendors offer, because it's a lot of plugins on the marketplace. We know that all of the vendors should go to the Forge And in Forge, it's the easiest backup of the plugins. Then they hosted themselves, but yes.
So what is also important that those people, those apps are also changing. So these products are changing. The roadmap is, I believe, public. So you can check what is in plans for everyone right now. Okay, so let's move forward to the next question. On a standard version, it looks like it's not possible to schedule backups. But do Atlassian have some kind of the backup stored that you don't see?
For sure, you don't see that backup which Atlassian do on AWS. But if you want to schedule your backup, Atlassian provides you scripts, Python, PowerShell, or Shell. You just need to connect this to your API key in Atlassian profile, and then you can schedule that once per 48 hours. In example, in your CI/CD application, you can just set up cron on your servers, and you can just put this information about your instance link, your user email, API key, and where this data should be stored. So this is available, but not from the UI.
Okay, moving forward, is Atlassian backups incremental or full backups?
Those are full backups, so they are prepared for a whole instance, and they are overwriting the whole instance when you restore them.
And of course, on the AWS, they are incremental, but this is not for client purposes using. This is for the problems which Atlassian faces on their service sites, for example.
Does HiQ works with standard plan?
Yes, as far as I know, that HiQ works with every plan because external tool that you just connect to your organization, and it won't look at what you are using. You can also use the free plan, and Atlassian stack will be good to recover.
Okay, next one. Does HiQ covers also Jira assets?
I think I answered that. Yes, they cover.
Yes, and we got also confirmation in our chat from Bogdan from HiQ that HiQ fully supports backup and recovery of JSM and assets. So basically, you don't have to divide it between Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, and JSM. Everything is covered.
Same as for Revise and Git Protect in
Yes.
assets area.
Okay. So what is the cheapest third-party tool for Jira backup? Because the tested ones are very expensive.
And it all depends because we don't know what how your instance looks like. We don't know what volume of data are we talking. So this one depends.
Yeah, and I believe this is not the question we can answer during the webinar, but
Especially there is not marketplace app, except these three we mentioned today. It's a lot of them, so hard to say which one is the cheapest. But you need to know that the cheapest is not always the best. So
okay, so maybe the question: how did you pick up those three out of many?
It was a very long process. We've been on a lot of calls with every kind of company that we talk about. First, we started with almost 20 tools, and then we are narrowing them to the ones that have the most options and were most elastic with doing Atlassian stack backups.
Thank you, Mateusz. Does any of the tools provide possibility to access data stored in backup without Atlassian platform?
As far as I know, the two of those tools, so HiQ and Git Protect, allows them because you store your data on your own site if you want. So you can always access those data without Atlassian tools. Revise is natively from Atlassian Marketplace and stores data in Atlassian AWS. So I don't know if you have access to those data without having to restore the test site.
Is Confluence also supported in the next question?
Yes, by every of those tools.
Yeah, they have different scopes in some ways, but still they support Confluence.
Do we still need third-party backup solutions if delayed permissions are revoked for users and we are not performing any bulk updates?
I'm not sure I'm understanding
Yes,
this.
also I would need some elaboration of this question.
I thought so. So if we can leave it for a consultation if someone is interested, or you can elaborate a little bit on the chat still. Okay, let's move forward to the next one. If we have enterprise, should we use third party or we can trust Atlassian backups and restore?
Okay, so if you have more backup option, it's just only better for you. If you have this enterprise feature already, It looks quite great, but still don't have granular restore option, for example. If it's enough for you, maybe it will be enough. But if you have more option to do that, I think it will be just better for you and your organization.
Okay. Will those backups cover all the apps, etc., that are installed? In example, bring back up the site as it was, as I don't think the standard Jira backup covers that.
Yeah, so as you said, the native backup is not providing any backup for apps. Some apps may be backup because right now we are transition phase in the Atlassian Cloud. So the old apps were written in the Connect language. Right now we are transitioning to the Forge app. And the apps that already on Forge may be backup because they're using the newer version of the APIs, which is using for being backup. So it also means it depends what apps are you using.
And for Confluence, it's much easier because a lot of that plugins is stored in macro text in the page or even attachment. So for Confluence, it's easier, but in Jira, usually it's a big problem.
Okay. What's your recommendation? If we have 3 different cloud sites, getting the same tool 3 times would be insanely expensive.
And as I saw Bogdan already mentioned it on chat, but with HiQ, you are just buying, please Bogdan, the verify if I'm telling right, but with your tool, you are only buying one license for backupping, and then you are just connecting to those cloud instances, but I think they have to be in one organization.
I'm not sure how it looks like for Revise and Git Protect, so we can ask you after the...
Yes, we can get back to this question after the webinar. Okay, so for HiQ, is the JS also included for the backups?
Yes, it's included. We already mentioned that, I think.
Okay, if we use assets, what do you recommend for backup? I don't think I think we've already covered that, but one more time.
Covered assets in sometimes in different scopes, but generally 3 are covering this already.
Okay, what about tempo timesheets? Is it included in the backup tools?
I know that it's included in HiQ, and I know that also Git Protect is at least in the beta testing of protecting the data from Tempo also. So, but I know what's their roadmap on doing it. Reuis, I don't think that Reuis is getting data from Tempo.
For right now, so far as I know, they are not supported Tempo.
Okay, so which product can include X-Ray?
This is good questions. I don't believe we have client already which backup it. So we need to check it after the webinar because I don't hear it from that moment.
Okay, next question. Have you experienced any problem with restoring XML backup created by any of the previous mentioned tools? Previously, XML backup have not been recommended. Example for data center, Atlassian always recommended DB backup and a backup on a file system level.
Yeah, we faced problems with instance which are previously was migrated from the data center or server, because during the native backup export to XML, these backups still have some data about plugins which are not longer on use on the cloud side. And after, when we trying the restore, we've got errors and we need to contact Atlassian to help us fix that XML files. So it happened in our situation. Right now, it's not that often, but it could be problematic sometimes. So this is important to test it on test it on the sandbox instances or maybe on other instances if we are on the standard plan.
Okay, so there is only 2 minutes until the end of the webinar. We still have plenty of questions. So please get back to our email addresses. You can contact us after if we cannot cover your question right now. So the next one, let's try to do as much as possible, assuming we use some apps on the projects like Timepiece or Rich Filters. Are they included in the backups or not?
Once again, it depends. To be honest, I don't remember if they're already rewritten to Forge, but I think the HiQ should be able to restore them. I don't know about the last 2 tools, but I know that Reuis is going to be the bigger surprise for us, because when everything will be on Forge, since Reuch is also on Forge right now, it should be able to restore some of those apps, but it's have to be wait until the roadmap is completed for Atlassian tools migration to Forge.
Yeah, probably the
Yeah.
rest of these tools could also cover that later, but it's a lot of depends of Atlassian side.
Okay, so I believe this will be the last question for today. Is RTM app covered by HiQ backup?
As far as I know, for now, not.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because this
Especially
is our
because-
app.
yeah.
Okay, guys, so it's 12 o'clock in the Central Eastern Europe time, so we should end already. I see there are still questions, so please get back to us after the webinar for the bonus you can get, and we will try to answer them after. So thank you very much for today. It was a pleasure to host the webinar, and when we see so many questions from you, it always a proof for us that the topic is really hot, and you have in mind that things like backups in Atlassian Cloud are important for your company, and you want to be proactive in this area. So for sure, this is not the last one. We will plan something soon, so stay tuned for the next topic of the webinars. But this is all for today. So thank you very much for your attendance, and hope to see you during the next webinars.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Before we will end the webinar, you can get back to us on the emails you see on the screen, and then you can get the bonus.
And after the webinar, you should have links to that Knowledge Hub.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.